So welcome, Dr. Allen.
Thank you.
Today, yeah.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure and honor today to talk to you. I was thinking how to talk to a professor in a podcast, and I was like, oh my God, what to do? And then should I start with a good, happy thing or a sad, theme? But yeah, anyway, I think the best way would be to talk similar to the theme of life,
Okay.
It has everything in it,
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with your late wife, may she rest in peace, and the Carnegie Hall,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of classical music, and I suppose you are as well. Yeah.
I'm not. I'm married into it a little bit, so
Yeah.
I had to learn, and my phone still has a lot of classical music on it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
So yeah, I started from scratch once we started dating, and I knew that's what she was into. I had to go learn a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Was she a professional play?
So she got her doctorate in collaborative piano.
Got it.
And she didn't want the university life, so she taught high school chorus.
Yeah.
And then on the side, she was a collaborative pianist for choirs.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of the most sought after collaborative pianist around the Atlanta area at the time.
Yeah. Looking at the classical music, so to speak, musicians, composers, and then now the people who are like kind of the players of those music. I have this guess, a sexist approach, I should say, that the best composers in the history were male, and the best players are female. So I think maybe it is something related to women in general, that they are more affected by sounds. I suppose psychologically they are more affected by sounds as opposed to males, or that we are more affected by visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. But
Yeah.
that sounds
And
reasonable.
for instance, playing Rachmaninoff, is a very hard. Yeah. Those are hard pieces of music to play. But the female artists, such as I am a big fan of Yuja Wang, and one Russian woman. Both of them are very amazing, and I don't know why I'm more inclined to listening to them, and I rate them higher than the male players.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know enough per se to judge her. She was my wife, so I think she was the best in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But she was good. She was sought after, and I enjoyed. I'd go to some sessions when they were recording and turn the pages for her, and I even got yelled down by the conductor for turning them too loud. So, so that was kind of fun. So.
Yeah. So, what's your most favorite classical composer?
I don't know that I have one really. I probably couldn't tell you the difference. So I never, like I said, I knew nothing about classical music.
Yeah.
Tried to learn a little bit, but I couldn't tell you one from the other probably.
Yeah. I see. Yeah. Classical music is so appealing in some ways, especially. I got acquainted with the music when I was studying my bachelor's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those long hours of study late at night, and listening to something that is not very distractive, as well as like make you like more concentrated on your work. So,
No, I still, like I said, it's still on my phone. So when I just put it on random, if I'm driving or running or walking or whatever, so classical song will come up every third or fourth. But if you said name that tune, I probably couldn't.
Yeah. And for me, some of them are so tiring. They consume a lot of like calories, maybe, in my mind. So they make me consume a lot of calories. So Yeah, it is like reading a philosophical book. Some of them are very emotional and makes you happy or sad, or like the Chopin ones, you know, Chopin's pieces. His one is very emotional. Yeah. The Beethoven is like is very hard. It has everything in it. It's more um, like deep and wide, you know,
Hmm.
and yeah, so they are more tiring, kind of. They make you will consume a lot of calories.
I hadn't thought about it that way. I had an early runner's watch that would track how fast I ran to each song,
Yeah,
and uh, and tell me, you know, which ones made me run faster. But I never thought about it that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, talking about sports, what do you think this year? What's the chance? Like,
Well, coming up for football,
yeah,
well, we still have to talk baseball.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Baseball is good. Yeah, they're doing very well
yeah,
right
well,
now.
it's kind
Balls
of
are.
funny. They had a great inning the other night, and I get pretty excited. And my watch dialed 911 and said, "He's fallen down."
Oh,
I hadn't fallen down, so that's how I get pretty excited about sports. Yeah, I think football. I mean, it, you know, I got to live the glory days and when we won
yeah,
national championships and beat people all the time. Um, but the last 10 or 12 years have been hard, so I'm trying not to get too excited. But I think this team has a lot of potential,
yeah,
and
yeah.
should be exciting for sure.
Yeah, I'm very new to American football, so my questions are very elementary, maybe, or points of view, maybe. Yeah, last year it was a big game, you know, that Florida,
Yeah.
that VOLs beat them, and yeah, it was wild, you know. Everyone was in the field, and
Oh yeah.
were you there too?
Not last year, but I've been there.
Oh,
I've
the
seen
year before.
yeah, I've
Ah.
seen 350 games there, so
Oh yeah,
I've seen a lot. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. Funny thing, I've never been one to storm the field.
Okay.
I don't know why, uh, but I did it by accident at Notre Dame. So
Oh,
not here. We beat Notre Dame, and some reason I just jumped on the field. But it was a long time ago. No cell phones, no proof. I just got out there and thought, "What am I doing?" But
yeah,
you get caught up in the excitement. It's fun.
yeah. In the
It's fun.
excitement, yeah, you
Yeah.
do a lot
I
of
love
things.
sports. It's part community, part competition,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and then of course teaching here. I'll have some of our athletes in class, so it's always fun to get to know them, tease them a little bit,
Right, right.
and um, that makes it even a little more interesting. They're all, I mean, that's the thing I've loved the last probably 5 years is just a lot of really good young men and women, and that you can be proud of. And,
Yeah,
so
yeah. The basketball team, the football team, yeah. They have been very good these last 3 years that I
yeah,
have been here,
yeah.
at least. Yeah.
Well, maybe you're good luck. You can't leave.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, football is also very appealing to us Afghans, you know.
American football or
American football,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were like we were raised up, or we grew in an environment with a lot of football and volleyball.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of volleyball too,
Okay.
and yeah, football or soccer as you call it. Yeah, but American football has that elements that's really appealing to our nature, I suppose. That aggressiveness, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that being like physical. Yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
That's definitely a physical game.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. It is really a physical game. Uh, like rugby. Rugby is also intensely physical
Yeah.
game.
I played football. You couldn't make me play rugby. Yeah. The thought of, I mean, it's basically football without pads, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, but Tennessee's always had a good rugby program as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The UT football team, they have been like creating all kinds of like good games these years. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
No, you've had a few good years.
yeah.
So.
So you are like a statistician by nature, maybe now, and you
Certainly by training and
yeah
probably by nature, yes.
by training and by nature, yeah. So what are the odds this year for the Bulls?
Uh, to do what? To win 10 games, I'd
Yeah,
put it at 40-60.
40, 60.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it'll come down to one key game that, uh, assuming they can keep from losing ones they shouldn't, which they've started getting there.
yeah,
That's the when Coach Fulmer was here, we never lost the games we shouldn't for most of his tenure.
yeah,
And then you had the big ones, and if you kind of won them 50-50,
yeah. The big games.
you
Yeah,
did pretty good.
yeah. Last year, like we lost like some games that we shouldn't
Yes,
have.
couple,
Yeah,
one or two at least. Yes.
yeah. So what is that? Why is that so? Like sometimes.
I mean, it happens, but
Yeah,
I think, I mean, probably depth.
yeah,
That we've got 22 really good players, but one gets hurt, one gets tired.
yeah,
Then things even up, and then it's the bounce of what's called a ball, but isn't shaped like a ball, right?
yeah.
So it just depends on how it bounces.
Yeah, that the question of injuries, yeah, that is like affecting the games, every game, like
Yeah.
as compared to soccer, for example. For if you want to have a good team that would be competitive in all the competitions in a year, so you should have like two teams, like two A teams,
Yeah.
like in order to be like competitive in every position. Uh, I suppose for the football, American football, you should have like a three A teams, you know.
Probably, yeah,
Yeah,
close to three. Yeah,
three teams, and you should keep all of them in condition and good
yeah.
shape. So I think that's very difficult.
And we've
yeah.
probably only had 1.5.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
building that depth. It's actually it may be getting harder because now it's so easy for kids to leave and go someplace else.
yeah,
So it used to be you'd come as a freshman and you were going to stay here for 4 years and you'd get bigger and stronger and faster. And your first year, you didn't need to be on those three teams. But
yeah,
your next year you were the second or third, and that builds depth. But that's harder to do.
yeah, yeah. So you have been like watching this game, like following this game for a long time now, I suppose. And
I've seen just about every game in that stadium since 1969. Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a lot,
I
a lifetime. Yeah,
I sold programs and sun visors as a 10-year-old.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what has changed in these years, like mostly in the nature of the game or in the players? The most visible thing?
You know, the fundamentals are still the same. I could probably go to practice
Yeah,
and teach the fundamentals I learned in high school, and the coach would say, "Yeah, that's about right, Alan."
yeah,
But they're bigger, stronger, faster.
yeah,
And of course, there's a lot of change going on right now, right, with the transfer portal and NIL, the players getting paid. They're saying before a couple of years that the players will be employees of the university.
yeah,
As an old school guy, I don't like that, but I'm good for them, right?
yeah,
For me, what's changed, my interest level is down just a little. It's still better than anything else,
yeah,
but I liked it when kids came here because they liked Knoxville, they liked the university, they stayed and had families, and now they come because they can get $1 million, deal with the car dealership or
yeah,
whatever, and that's okay. Nothing against them, but it's harder for me to invest my energy in
yeah.
that. I mean, it's like pro football. I don't like pro football as much as I like college.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely the elements of fame and the money that is
Yeah.
in these sports. Yeah. So do you think that the fame element now being an age of like social media and different technologies that makes it easier?
Yes.
And also the factor of like finance in it.
Yeah.
Have these like factors changed the nature of the game a bit?
Oh, I definitely have. To me, mostly for the worst. Like I just said, I would prefer kids that just wanted to be here because they loved the school, they loved the area, they loved the team, they wanted to win championships, those kind of things. But I think one good thing is, through history, athletes have been known to get in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know if they get in trouble more than the general public, but it gets publicized more. But now that I'm paying you, $100,000 a year for your name, and you're going to hold up my cookie or my pizza or my car or whatever and advertise it, now you got to think about, your name is literally worth money. And
Yeah.
do you want to do something stupid that hurts your name? And so I think that could be a side benefit, that kids will stay a little bit more out of trouble
Yeah.
and honor their name more, and that's good.
More disciplined,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, I think that's a good side benefit.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it has definitely affected some people, some players at least. Yeah, like in soccer or football, we have had a lot of players in the team levels, like in the leagues that are more into the sports because they love that, and nothing else affects them, like fame or money. There's one now very well world-renowned footballer, Tony Cruz.
Okay.
I don't know if you have
I
heard
don't-
of him.
not-
German
Okay.
national footballer, and so he retired at the age of 34, and he's still in his prime.
Yeah.
And and he had got offers from many countries, like Arabic countries, Saudi Arabia, giving him promising him a lot of money. But
Sure.
yeah, he said that no, it's enough. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not money that motivates me, he would say.
Yeah.
And
I like. I'll watch soccer, World Cup time, and I like the strategy and the endurance. But to me, I need more, scoring.
Yeah.
You gotta. I think you have to appreciate the nuance of it. The same with baseball. I like watching how people tie their shoes or get rocks out of the way, or where they position themselves. And but I don't know enough about soccer to kind of keep an eye out for all those things.
Yeah. So the loyalty factor there, that the motivation factor for the players, that spices the game, I think. Yeah. I remember there was this Juventus football team from Italy, so they were caught in match fixing, and and the court relegated them to the third league. And it had a lot of good players and very big players, big names there. And so when it was relegated, most of the players, they left because it was no more earning that level of money that would afford them. But some players stayed there, and they stayed there for the love of the team that the team that they had. The motivation was there for them to be there because of their team that they loved, not money and anything else. So some players, they stayed and they worked hard and they promoted the team back to the first league. And
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
So very hardcore, loyal fans. So
Yes. Well, and that's the kind of people you can get excited about being a fan of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
think.
Definitely.
And that's why I think we see a lot. You see a lot of passion in
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So, as a frequentist, what are the chances of VOLs winning?
Well, it might be good to be a frequentist, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to get all that prior information in there.
Yeah.
So, baseball or football? Which one?
So football, yeah.
Winning it all, close to zero.
Oh, yeah?
I'm afraid. making the, so now there's 12 teams make the playoff. I'm gonna give that 30-70.
30-70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before that happens, though, I'm hoping this week the baseball team will win their first ever national championship.
Yeah,
I'd give
they
that
are very
about
close. Yeah.
60 to 70%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very close to winning that.
Yeah, they
I
are.
guess.
They're doing good.
Yeah.
Although the one of the catchers in an interview said that his least favorite class was mine. So I told him I might have to change his grade.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I think he was kidding because he did great. He was a great student. So
No, we enjoyed your classes a lot. I took one class from you,
Yeah.
statistics class, and yeah, me and my friend, we were like enjoying the class because it was more than a class, and grasping statistics sometimes is difficult.
Sure.
At least for me, it's difficult, and statistical statistical reasoning or statistical point of view, that can be difficult for sometimes. Even I'm an engineer, for us engineers. So, but you made it very easy for us,
oh, well, thank you.
real life examples, and yeah, making it spicy every day, like from.
We try to have fun.
Yeah,
Try to
yeah,
have fun.
From your experiences, past experiences, and yeah, and the example, for example, the example of the fog and the light, you used to give us a lot, and
Mhm.
statistics being like this to separate the light from the fog, and
Mhm.
yeah. So it was really, really interesting for us, and
Well, good.
really
Thank you.
enjoyed this statistics.
I enjoy. That's one of my favorite classes to teach.
Yeah.
If you remember, I mean, everybody's from all across the campus,
Yeah.
all across the world.
Yeah.
It's almost like a meeting of the United Nations or something. So
Yeah.
that's always a lot of fun too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How long have you been teaching statistics here?
Here,
Yeah.
well, it depends.
Yeah.
So the first time I taught a degreed class was probably 17 years ago, MBAs. And I pretty much for 7-8 years, that's all I taught was MBAs.
Yeah.
And I've only been in the stats department for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so kind of different roles, those 17 years, but
Yeah.
current role 3 years.
You have been like in a very you have lived and been in your top level, the statistics realm, so to speak, in a very interesting era of the humanity, if I use big words. So this era of technologies,
Yes.
the surge of technologies,
Yeah.
and technologies that generated too much data and unprecedented amounts of data.
Sure.
And now they are talking about the data that is being generated like in 1 year that hasn't been generated in the whole history of mankind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, being a statistics professor or being in this area and working with data, you also need to work with data. What has changed? Is there any fundamental change with this big amount of data that's coming?
That's an interesting question. I'll give the typical professor answer, yes and no. I'll do the no first. I mean, the no is almost all techniques that we use today we've had for 100 years. They
Yeah.
might have been tweaked or improved. Things called AI, they're a version of something people were doing 60 years ago. But
Yeah.
we just couldn't do it because we didn't have the computers.
Yeah.
We didn't have the speed or the storage. So we had the techniques, but we couldn't really use them.
Yeah.
And so the biggest change has been computing power and speed.
Yeah.
And then in that sense, you still got to make decisions. You still have to interpret the data correctly. You still have to analyze it correctly. So all of that, I think, is the same.
Yeah.
Almost zero difference. 'What big data, if you will, I think has done is a couple of things. One, there's so much data. I mean, I spent most of my career with MBAs and managers and executives trying to convince them you need to use data to make better decisions.
Yeah.
You'd think you wouldn't have to convince them that, but they manage by feelings and gut feelings and so forth. So now there's so much data, kind of you can't ignore it, and so it's created a wave of interest that's, you know, good, right? But also I think it's created a wave of arguments and expectations that may not be feasible. For instance, you know, a common question I'll see on Twitter weekly or monthly, can we use big data, AI, instead of clinical trials?
Yeah.
And to me, the answer is absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
But there's good arguments made for that you can, and people and companies investing in and our government investing in trying to do that. It's an honorable thing to do, right? If I could make a decision about a drug or a technique without having to run a clinical trial as an experiment on us human beings, that would be great. So it's an honorable thing to think about, but more data won't solve the core issues of getting data that's not from an experiment.
Yeah.
You can't. You just get closer and closer to the wrong answer the more data that you have.
Got it.
So I mean, big data. That I mean, there's things that we couldn't do unless we had a whole lot of data, like AI, ChatGPT, things like that. It takes a ton of data to train, right?
Yeah.
So that's different. But the fundamentals of making decisions, critical thinking, problem solving, analysis, I don't think have changed in 50 years.
So what is the element that is missing there that you're saying that we cannot make a clinical trial from the data, vast amount of data that we have from billions of people?
Yes.
And what is the missing fundamental thing that is missing?
Well, I mean, the word that we use is confounding.
Oh, yeah.
And is that it's the unknown variables, right? We got a bunch of variables and a bunch of data. Yeah. But we don't know what we don't know, what we don't have. And I think I gave this example in class, but it's a clear one for me. You know, during COVID, there were several things that came up, from drugs to convalescent plasma, that, you know, we were in an emergency and we tried things. Yeah. And then we got big data, or observational data is of course now it's cool, you call it real world data. Yeah. Well, it's the same data, it's been remarketed as real world. The official name is observational, meaning we just observed it. We didn't make the data on purpose by manipulating variables. And so certain interventions, when you analyze the observational data, said this is a good thing. And then when somebody came and ran the experiment, the clinical trial, it proved that it wasn't. So how come the difference? Well, oversimplified, but if I've got something I think might help you, but it's a drug, so I just can't give it to anybody. And so maybe I say, well, Mustafa, I think you're probably too sick. I'm not going to give you the drug, but Alan is hanging in there. Maybe it'll help him. Well, if you only give the drug to people who are doing better and you don't give it to the people who are really sick, then you analyze the data later and it says, hey, the people who got the drug did better. Well, no, the people who were doing better got the drug. Yeah. So we get it backwards. So there are techniques. There's a whole industry called causal inference that develops techniques to try and do that better. And those techniques are better than not having those techniques. But the honest folks from that industry will tell you, even when we do our best, we still never know. Yeah. Of course, I spent most of my career in business and later in my career in medicine. And in business, we get away with it. If I say, run this ad on Twitter, it's better than that ad, and I'm wrong, we'll find out tomorrow and fix it.
Yeah.
But I can't do that with medicine, with people's lives and so forth. And so that was an interesting, I thought I was an experienced, a 30-year veteran statistician who worked all around the world,
Yeah.
and that I could transition into biostatistics or medical statistics real easy, and I was wrong.
Yeah.
I almost had to start over.
Yeah.
So-
So what is in this big data that we have or the companies have today? The question of randomization,
Yeah.
biases,
Yeah.
and the sampling methods, so to speak. So that has become like a little bit skewed or not correct, or
I think, I don't think anything's changed. I think that there's a subset of people that just depending on their, so with computing power and open source software coding, and we had a former friend of mine from way back when's now kind of an AI expert. He came and gave a talk, and with 12 lines of code, he created a CEO resume bot, if you will,
Yeah.
right, to scan resumes for a CEO position. Well, the 12 lines of code were only because there was 1 million lines of code of open source functions that he could call upon,
Yeah.
right? And so that's great, that's cool, but it also means almost anybody can do it,
yeah,
right? And that anybody may or may not have the requisite training. It's like, well, I wrote the code and I had lots of data. What's wrong?
yeah.
Right? Well, they weren't trained in what's wrong. And so, yeah, understanding, confounding, bias. I mean, I said it earlier, my punchline is, you know, the more and more data you get, probably the closer and closer you get to the wrong answer.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
and so, but when I teach MBAs, I tell them that, and then I say, but don't worry about it, because it's just money, and you'll figure it out. But if I come teach researchers, I gotta make it more serious, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're in medicine or agriculture, or, you know, whatever. There we gotta worry more about those things, because it's not just about money, and it's generally not mistakes that we can fix fast.
Yeah.
I think I told you guys a story in class, and the biggest business mistake in history, I think, is New Coke. And it was a bomb, and it took Coca-Cola 9 months to admit it. That's a long time in business, 9 months. It's like
Yeah.
the longest time you take in business to solve a problem. I do most of mine in 3 months. And, but they're still one of the largest companies in the world. They still exist, they're still doing good, and they made the biggest mistake ever. But in breast cancer, we made the mistake for a whole decade of doing bone marrow transplant for metastatic breast cancer. And we finally figured out, I say we, I didn't have anything to do with it, but the industry, that it wasn't helping at all. So all it did was run up costs, put people in pain, give them false hope,
Yeah.
and waste efforts on something that we could. So in medicine, it takes 10 years to figure out your mistake
Yeah.
versus 9 months. And in business, you can make the biggest mistake and still be okay. In medicine, we can't. We
Yeah.
can't do that.
In the communities, in the AI communities, the AI experts are sometimes reluctant to admit or acknowledge the role of the statistics in their work, and they're kind of being like drunken by the data and
Yeah.
the tools that they
Yeah.
have created.
Yeah.
And as you said, in the businesses today, they have like very good like returns for the companies. Like in this age where we have a lot of algorithms running, and our lives are affected by those algorithms, either from Facebook or social media, from other companies, Google, and they say that, okay, see, we have results here, and so they are kind of blindsided sometimes. I'm also one of those like new AI, like novices AI engineer maybe, that we kind of overlook statistics. Yeah.
Yeah, That's a very interesting question. I keep waiting for somebody to define the difference between statistics, machine learning, AI. What's a statistician versus a data scientist? What's a business analytics major versus a data analyst? You know, all these terms, and I don't have a clear definition, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'll let somebody else do it. But I think one thing, you know, statistics was invented about having a little bit of data from a population.
Yeah.
That's the basic definition of statistics, right? And now we have a whole bunch of data that we don't even know what the population is most of the time. Or we know, but it isn't what we want to infer to. And so some of the things we do in statistics, like statistical significance, when you have so much data, that's never a question, right? And so in that sense, you don't need some of the statistical tools that we used to need because we have so much data.
Yeah.
But I don't think it necessarily helps. Like there was a little argument on Twitter the other day that a study of what's it called? It's PR. Anyway, it's a genetic study that creates a metric from your genes, if you will, and it was trying to predict something, right? And there was a scatter diagram that had a statistically significant correlation. Well, yeah, if you have 20,000 genes and and you measure it on 100,000 people, and you don't even need to look if it's statistically significant. But the correlation was like 0.2. You square that, R-square 0.04, meaning it explained 4% of something, even if it really did,
Yeah.
right? And of course, it was just correlation and not causation.
Yeah.
So if you can only explain 4% of a correlation and you're trying to imply causation, that's where we're in trouble. We didn't need any fancier statistics. We needed better thinking, I think.
Right. Yeah. So the question of statistical tools and skill set still applies today, and I think most of the AI experts can really benefit from that. In my own research here, I had that hole in my research, and by taking your classes and studying here, I think we got that tool set, or at least started taking those tool sets to make our research better. I think the question of designing experiments while having very small resource in your hand makes the use of statistics even more important, because we need to design an experiment or a trial that would be economically good,
Yes.
yeah, and it would give us good results, like significant results there.
Well, I think, you know, I love teaching and doing experiments. There's always the statistical concepts that go into the design of an experiment.
Right.
And most of the time you need them in the analysis, because what you said, the economic realities, most, not all, but most experiments, you're going to push up against a budget, right? You're trying to find that one of the jobs of the statistician is to tell you, the subject matter expert, the smallest sample size you can run, but still get what you want, because every sample is money, right, and time. And so when you do that, then the statistics is very important. Now there's some places like social media advertising or things like that where maybe we could run just as big of an experiment as we want. And then it's more about the statistical aspects of the design of the experiment. The analysis almost handles itself. If you can get big data from an experiment, then I don't mind if you skip a few statistical steps on the analysis stage.
Yeah.
But don't skip them on the design of the experiment stage.
Yeah. So, are you worried about AI becoming so strong at the technology that it might be?
In reality, probably no. I've always joked,
Yeah.
before even AI was a buzzword, that I think the world will end by either the Terminator or the Matrix, right? And so if you think about it, both of those are AI kind of things.
Yeah.
I'm not worried of, you know, like literally of the Terminator or the Matrix per se. I think AI is going to help us. The coolest quote that I've seen lately, I saw on Twitter. I wish I could attribute it to the right person, but I can't off the top of my head. Was let's see if I can get this right. I don't. What was it? Oh, it was really cool. I'm going to mess it up. I don't want AI to paint pictures for me and write poems for me. I want AI to do my job so I can paint pictures and write poems.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right? It just made you think of if it can help us have the freedom to, you know, to be more human beings, you know, to
Definitely
do those kind of things. So yeah, I'm not afraid of AI. You know, we're all pondering the role it plays in teaching. Some interesting questions have come up the last year as I've worked with students, and our policy in our department is use whatever you want. We don't limit it, whatever. The only thing we say is, I say two things. I say, depending on the class, if you use AI, it'll probably give you the wrong answer, and you'll be better off using the tools we give you, but feel free.
Yeah.
And then you're in a university, so if you use it to write something, you should cite that you used it. In the analytics department, we don't care a whole lot.
Yeah.
If the English department, right, you got to care about that more. So I always give that warning. But it's, you know, it's made us think, right? I mean, I think the best thing in what I do right now that I've seen with AI is just helping with coding.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been coding for a couple weeks straight, and I mean, I've just got ChatGPT open right on the other screen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a simple thing. How do I use that darn function I've done 10 times, but I forgot? And sometimes it's, how do I do this I've never done before? And so, how does that change how we teach students to code? I don't know the answer yet, right? Because they're going to have that. I'm going to call it a crutch, but it's a tool. It's not a crutch. It's a tool. It's a legitimate tool.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, but you still can't use that tool unless you know what you're doing. If you use that tool in place of learning what you're doing, you'll screw up.
Yeah.
Like I had in my introductory regression class where we teach R and regression for the first time, some students, I told them, if you want to search something, search the PDF we give you, the answer's in there. Well, they went to ChatGPT, copied the answer exactly, and it was wrong, right? And I said, you know, I told you could use it if you want to, but it's only going to help you when you know what you're doing. And if you use it when you don't know what you're doing, that can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
And so AI is obviously, I mean, it's kind of obvious statement, impacting how we think about how we teach, a little bit how we test. We have this test we give our graduates when they're senior, the very last thing they take. And it kind of grades them, but it grades the whole program. It was 10 questions that we would like our students to know the answer to when they graduate.
Yeah.
For their whole degree. It's cumulative, right? And we set a goal that, you know, they score 70%. I don't remember, you know. You got to do these things for accreditation and everything. And, you know, we can measure how we're doing and how the students are doing. Well, AI can answer every one of those questions. I mean, we put it in and AI got it right.
Yeah.
So if AI can answer those questions, do I still ask my students to answer them? What is that measuring? I don't know. That's part of it. I'm working on that this summer, kind of thinking about, do we need a different test? I actually experimented. My last class, I let them volunteer. I cut them in half. And half, I let them use AI to answer the questions, and half didn't.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting. It didn't give me the answer, the final answer of what I think I want to do. But anyway, so yeah, it's got to change the way we think about how we teach.
Right, right.
And like I said, what we've done just immediately was when it started becoming popular, you can use it. You know, we didn't say, hey, you can't or whatever. But I would have to say we haven't yet, or I know I haven't. I can't speak for all my colleagues, but I think I could say we haven't quite figured out the best way to integrate it into the teaching and learning
Yet,
just
yeah.
yet.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the skills should be there, like how to use it, why to use it, and the like critical thinking aspect of it, and how to use this tool. It definitely offloads human. In my experience, it offloaded me from doing some stuff that I like spent time on it. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And I think that's good.
That's
yeah.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
That brings efficiency in our lives, and yeah, and it's a good tool. As you said, like we can focus on things that we haven't been able to. For instance, like spending time with the kids, you know, like family, like the capitalistic system. Again, making a big bold statement, but like the capitalistic system here is not very family friendly system. So we have to work a lot, like, and so. Being with the family, with the kids, having time is like limited at least, you know. And so in that way, if AI helps, that's good thing. Yeah. So in that matter, like the emergence of AGI and in our lives, like in a couple of years or in a decade maybe. So what do you think? Like what change it will bring? Will it be very big, drastic change?
I don't think I'm going to be great at predicting that. If I had to bet, I'd say no, but that's just a wild guess. I think well, I was reading something, I can't remember, but I mean, the curve, you know, the last 5 years is very steep.
Yeah.
But I forget what the comment was, what I was reading. But we've basically trained our current AI on just about every known thing in the universe. I mean, we're running out of data to train it on.
And energy.
Yeah, and so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah.
Maybe from this perspective, like you have witnessed the emergence of like nuclear weapons in the United States here, and I suppose you have also worked in one of them, or for some time.
That was my first real job. It was making parts that made the weapons. Yes.
Yeah. So that was a big change in the art of war, so to speak, in the balance of power in the world. So a big change, and if you compare that nuclear power, nuclear weapons being a tool in the hands of humans, and now people are contrasting that AGI, the emergence of AGI, to that maybe in terms of like the strength that it gives to the human being, like as a tool. So if you compare these two technologies, what do you see?
I don't think I'm qualified, but you know, if you think about it, I think I'll stick with my original answer. If you kind of think about it, in one sense, nuclear weapons did make a big change, right? Yeah. In another sense, have they really? If we look around the world at all the wars and all the hand fighting and all the bomb throwing and all the, has it really changed anything? There's that threat, right, that maybe keeps big actors like us and Russia or whatever from doing something really aggressive or stupid. But in the meantime, you know, aren't there? I'm not good with war statistics, but I mean, the people dying in what we might call wars all around the world. You know, from Ukraine or whatever. have we gotten any? I don't know.
Right.
And so in that sense, there was a paradigm shift that at a point in time kind of stopped a world war, right?
Yeah.
But since that time, has it really stopped anything? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Maybe it has stopped something and emboldened
Emboldening something else.
something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that question's over my head.
Yeah. Yeah. It is like it is the buzzword and the
Yeah.
of the you know market square, so
Yes,
to speak.
exactly. Yeah.
These days, the emergence of AGI
Yeah.
and in my life, my own experience. So during the emergence of this Chat GPT versions, my daughter was born.
Uh-huh.
So it was in the middle of the semester, and it was like 6th of March, or start of semester. My daughter was born, and so I had to be there with them, with the family, and so I had to allocate my time there, you know.
Right.
And I had classes here with you guys here, giving a lot of like readings, you know,
Right.
projects, everything. So I was like, time-wise, I was very constrained and limited that time. The publication of ChatGPT made me like I used that to prepare my presentations. And,
Right.
Yeah, to check for English edits in my
Yeah.
writing. So it saved my time. Like I would have like in a typical programming coding task, I would have like spent like 4 hours maybe, and then with the emergence of ChatGPT, it got reduced to at least 2 hours. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so it helped me a lot time-wise, you know, being with the family as well as, you know, performing here, you know.
I mean, I think that's what we want to see happen. I wonder, I mean, you can take a given scenario, and that's a great, I love that story, but if you think it just sort of bigger picture, like, am I gonna, I think of my own, right? Am I gonna take that time that it's saving me coding and do something else, or am I just gonna come up with a new idea to code, or a new, you know, project, or,
Yeah.
you know, but that's good too, right? That's productivity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's definitely a net all gonna be good.
Yeah.
Does it lead us to, you know, where the robots do all the work for us and we go fishing and painting and poem writing and whatever? I don't know.
Carnegie Hall, maybe.
Yeah, Carnegie Hall. But I don't think I'll see that. But maybe you or was it a daughter?
Yeah.
Not your daughter. Yeah. But who knows?
Yeah, yeah. You will also see it's going so fast that, you know, we wouldn't be imagining these things like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm especially since I know a little bit about kind of how things work under the hood as a statistician, not much, but a little, you know, that the thought that it can, the technology can write code that well.
Yeah.
From a little prompt I give it, I mean, that is fascinating.
It is fascinating.
And yeah, and that will, so, right, we've got to train our students well enough that they understand what they're doing so they can, eventually they're going to use AI to write code. So there's fewer coders needed,
Yeah.
but there's more thinkers needed. And that in general, that's good. There's some, I don't think I share that with you guys, but when I teach our seniors, I tell them there's 3 kinds of business analytics majors or graduates, and it's your choice. They're all good. They're all needed. One I call the cubicle analytics, where you sit in a cubicle. Of course, now you sit at home or on your couch or in your bed, and you code or you do things. People throw stuff over, and Now, you know, email it, and you email it, but you don't have to deal with anybody, pretty much. You know, you're just doing. And some people love that and are great at it. We're going to need fewer of them, I think, with AI, right?
Yeah.
The other one I call meeting room analytics, which is what I've done my whole career. That's where you're in the room, you're brainstorming, you're critical thinking, you're problem solving, you're coming up with the things you need somebody else to do for you to solve the problem. To me, that's my gaming. I'm not a gamer, but that's my gaming, just solving problems. That's fun for me.
Yeah.
And then I call it boardroom analytics. Like, do you want to be the boss one day, right? And if you do, come get an MBA from us when you're ready. And so I think that cubicle analytics role is going to be the hardest hit.
Yeah.
I still don't think we're going to. Well, I can't envision in my lifetime that we're going to have AI that's can do critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. I probably couldn't predicted what we have now 5 or 10 years ago. It can do things. It can do tasks, and that can free us up to think that more or spare, do our spare time.
Yeah.
But I think I said to you guys, statistics is the science of variation, and I have great job security because there's a lot of variation in the world. Well, I'm not worried that AI is going to take my job. It could take my job as a teacher. Now, that's an interesting thing. But as a statistician and a problem solver, that doesn't worry me at all. That it can do some analysis for me and free me up to think more and talk to people more and explore the problem more. That's great. I do wonder, right? I asked my friend who gave the AI lecture, he did an example of, I forget what he called it. It wasn't a real fancy name, but they basically, a small company had an employee retiring. And in small companies, when an employee retires, that their knowledge goes with them, right? And so they took that employee's emails, they videotaped, I think it was him asking questions, all the procedures and policies he'd ever written, and trained, over top of ChatGPT, trained we'll call it a Mustafa bot, right? And now he's gone, and they can ask the bot, what would he have done?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good example.
And so, is it possible that 100 years from now, I'm still teaching 537 as a hologram?
Yeah.
And that students can literally ask me questions and get the answer that I might have given?
Yeah.
I guess it is.
Yeah.
So that's both interesting, depressing, and exciting.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, considering your these decades that you have experienced a lot of things in the first-hand change coming from here mostly, and then going around the world, spreading around the world. Are you some people are the type of people who are looking backwards, like the past? They look the past days, and they say that, oh, I wish I was living like 20 years ago.
Yeah, the good old days.
The good old day type of people. Yeah. Or are you the type of people who are very excited about the future?
Yeah. I think I'm the future. Mostly a future kind of guy. I mean, I look back. There's not much I would trade in from today going back. Every generation, always thinks that, these youngsters today, kind of thing. And the only thing that kind of bothers me there, and it just could be I'm getting old, I don't know. But I think it's a combination of social media and then a little bit of COVID hitting at a certain time, but I think it was pre-COVID as well. But work ethic.
Yeah.
I do worry about work ethic. So if anything, I could look back and go, I hope in the future we have the work ethic. I mean, I hope we get to work on more productive and exciting things because AI does, routine things for us. But that ethic of hard work and commitment and deadlines and being on time, and so that's the only kind of nostalgia I look back on a little bit. Other than that, I'm fascinated by technology and glad to see us moving ahead. And I wouldn't want to go, heck, I started doing statistics with punch cards.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to go back to that. Right.
Yeah.
I had a little terminal with a mainframe computer 2 miles away. I don't want to do. Now I carry it, on my hip. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for quote going back, other than kind of the work ethic and that kind of stuff.
Our struggle was like when we were very young. Our struggle was to use a computer, to see a computer, to run like Microsoft Windows.
Yeah.
And we would risk a lot to go and use the computers in the lab in our school back in Afghanistan. And some people would like steal the keys for that, and make a copy of the computer room, and then use it in the middle of the night when the instructors were not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had that struggle at that time to touch it, kind of,
Yes.
that holiness,
Yeah.
Yeah, of course we don't want to go. The question of, the hard work, the dedication that some generations have, like, is very admirable. Like, especially when when you see the history, the recent history of USA. The USA around 2000, around the World War II, I think it fascinates me a lot. Like a lot of production, high production, and everything new technology coming out, and science discoveries. So around World War II, USA, and that era was something else, I think.
Yeah. Well, they got dubbed the greatest generation. I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
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 The production of military equipment in those years, when USA was becoming the superpower in the world, and entering the unknown seas, so to speak. The USA was going to Africa, to Europe, to Asia, and the economic power behind that, like the production, the factories at that time, the people, the visionary people at that time, the great thinkers, science people like Albert Einstein, from that area, from that era, and it was fascinating. So when I look back, I would want to live in such a era.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. That might be a fun time travel.
Fun time travel.
But again, I think it was around, as I heard you explain it, more about the culture and the ethic and the just the people versus technology per se.
Right.
Although I've had good fortune. I mean, I've been on the shop floor at Ford and General Motors and Harley Davidson and Lockheed and Boeing, and it still always fascinates me that we human beings can put together something and fly it, or drive it or whatever. And so that probably was a pretty fascinating time of production and of machines and things like that. But yeah, being an engineer, that would probably fascinate you. It fascinates me, but it almost overwhelms me not being an engineer, thinking like, my dad was a home builder, so my first job was digging ditches and shoveling rocks and putting tar and stuff, but I've seen houses built from the ground up, and when I see certain architecture or buildings, and I think, especially old ones, I think, how did they do that?
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, that is that is fascinating. I would
That's-
agree.
Yeah. So, as a last question
Hmm.
today, who do you think rules the world? The statisticians, the engineers, the politicians?
Well, um, um, my first answer I probably can't say. um, I'm going to give you a funny and a serious answer, I
Yeah.
guess. You know, and a serious answer, I was actually thinking about this earlier. I think the biggest mistake mankind made, and maybe it's only for certain countries like ours here, is political parties. I just, I don't understand political parties. I'm neither a Democrat or a Republican. I'll vote either way. I look at leadership and things, and I just watch what happens in mainly our country because it's easy to see how party politics drives things over common sense, over the good of the people, and so I'm pretty dismayed with the political process, I guess, and so. To answer your questions, do politicians rule the world? I wish they didn't, but maybe they do
Yeah.
to some degree. You know, if I had to go to Mars, which, by the way, if we go in my lifetime, I'll volunteer. I'd definitely rather go with a statistician or an engineer than a politician.
Yeah.
And if I had to choose between an engineer and a politician, that's actually easy. I would choose the engineer
Yeah.
because we got to build things and make things. You know, I'd just be around telling you how well you did it. But so, you know, if you could only send an engineer or a statistician to Mars, you got to send the engineer and keep the politicians home.
That's a very good answer.
Yeah. Now, my funny answer is whichever one of those are female.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's my funny answer. But,
Yeah.
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 So.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr.
Well,
Ali.
no,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
enjoyed today a lot.
Very much
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I liked hearing about your custom of having tea and chatting.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, we have that like in our culture we say that tea is the gasoline of friendship. So we have friendships and around teas, you know.
yeah.
And when we say like we will come to your house, we will say we will come to have a tea, a cup of tea
Right.
in your house, like you
Yeah.
know, in our language. So yeah.
That's a. I mean, when you just say it, I can visualize it.
Yeah.
It's a very pleasant and very kind of inspiring thing to think of.
Yeah, especially the elders. The elders would sit there and talk about their lives, you know,
Yeah.
and history or stories, you know, and we would listen to them, or we would have friends and they would talk about themselves and we would talk about ours and just chat, you know.
I think we need a lot more of that.
Yeah.
I think right now there's too much just instead of talking and listening, more arguing.
Yeah.
You know, and that just has a calming description. Now, I'd probably put a little Jack Daniels in my tea, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been in the U.S.?
This is my third year.
Third year. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Third
Yeah.
year, and I came like we came here at the end of 2021.
Right after,
So.
well, still a little COVID going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And you came here for your degree?
Yeah, yeah. I came here for my degree, and yeah, I was settled here, and I had everything here. I had my first American baby here.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of firsts here, and
Oh, that's exciting.
meeting people like you, valuable people.
How did you find the University of Tennessee?
The University of Tennessee, very resourceful, and yeah, it is very student-oriented. Yeah, university that is very good and challenging as well. A lot of good students are here, competitive, you know.
Yeah.
And it definitely took me out of my comfort zone, like, and I had not worked this much like in my whole life. Maybe the country that I lived was not very demanding, or maybe yeah, something like that. But here it's very demanding, and even if you have to work hard,
Yeah.
And that's good. That's like nurturing, evolving us, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here and doing good things and making us all smarter. And so you've got one little. That was your first baby?
That's my third one.
Third one. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, your first one that you had here.
Yeah.
How old is your oldest?
She has turned 9 recently. 9. Yeah. So
Okay.
I have 2 daughters and 1 son. Yeah.
All right. Well, that puts a smile on your face.
Yeah, yeah. So my father had 5. So
Okay.
my father's record is 5. Yeah. So I'm gonna continue that legend, I suppose.
Okay. All right.
If I can.
Does your wife agree with this?
No. My wife, understandably, she has different opinions. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we men are like expansive in our nature, I
There
suppose.
you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for
Thank
thinking
you
of
very
me.
much.
I
Yeah,
enjoyed
thanks.
doing
It
it.
was an honor. Yeah.
And honor's mine. And,
Yeah.
keep doing great things and making everybody proud.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you very much.
all righty.
Dr.